Canthal. I'm the founder and CEO of the Canthal Group. And with me is Rachel Lee, my partner in life and business. She's the COO of the Canthal Group. Hi, babe.
Hi.
Today, and sorry, I'm going to manage our live and then also in LinkedIn, so bear with me. A lot of clicking of buttons. All right, so today we are going to focus on Rachel's area of expertise. And she is a trained, and as I describe, a unicorn in the functional nutrition space. She's also an executive coach and a life coach. So today we're going to focus on Rachel's area of expertise in that functional nutrition space. And we're going to apply it to what she sees and also what I see with a lot of leaders, and how health is an important piece of overall wellness. So physical, emotional, mental, all of it. So what we'll do today is tell you a little bit about my story of how I even found Rachel. And we'll tell you the G-rated version of how we met, because normally I tell it a little differently depending on the audience. And then we'll kind of do more of like an interview of Rachel. So for those watching, if you have any questions you want her to address, please put them in the chat. I'll keep an eye on it. And then we'll go from there. Before we dive in, we're going to do my favorite part, which is the dad joke. And I didn't tell you what this one was going to be, Rachel, so we'll see if you get it.
No, you wouldn't give me a heads up last night.
No, I would not. All right, so here's the joke. I went to the zoo the other day, and there was only one dog in the entire zoo. It was a Shih Tzu.
I got that. You didn't think I would get that joke. Come on. That's a good one.
You like that one?
Yeah, it wasn't phallic like all of our other ones. So that was good.
I mean, all the other ones, less too.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. I feel like this is I'm a little out of my game here because this isn't my room. And so I'm like trying to concentrate and I'm not in my space. So for y'all listening, give us a little grace as we settle in. Our internet is out at home. So we had to go find office space. And so I'm sitting here in this echoey chamber of a conference room. So I'm like,
yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Let's dive in. People here.
So as we talked behind the scenes, what we thought would be a good idea was to tell a little bit of my story and how Rachel and I met. And then we'll segue into some of the questions for you, Rachel. So, and keep me honest here, because I'm going to share some things that I don't think they're unbelievable, but some people might question them. So you'll be the Jiminy Cricket here.
Okay. Well, you do have a tendency to like storytell. So
yes. Well,
I'll fact check this.
Thank you. Okay. So in 2013, I think it was, I went to a doctor. I had an allergy test called an ALCAT. And when the results came back, it looked like I was allergic or at least responding to so many food, even kale. And I remember being so, I don't know, animated, like fucking kale? Like, what is wrong with my body? And I remember specifically the doctor that I was seeing, he literally said to me, I don't know what you're going to eat, dude. And I was like, well, thanks, doc. That helps me out a ton. So really what I learned from that ALCAT was that I was intolerant to gluten and to dairy, which explains some of the challenges I was having. I went to a number of nutritionists. I remember two in particular. One, I spoke to and asked her if she would give me a meal plan because that's what I thought I would needed. On the phone, she said yes. In person, she said no. And mind you, this nutritionist, I was thinking about her earlier, and she just didn't look well. She was kind of puffy or swollen. Not to suggest she was overweight, but she just didn't look well. That one didn't help me. The second nutritionist I saw literally told, and what's the food plate thing? Like 40% this, 30-30?
Yeah, like the food plate, the food pyramid, the food plate, dietitian.
So this one, yeah, so this woman's approach was literally following that to a T. When I pushed back on her, she in essence said, trust me. And in the back of my head, I was like, you're going to fail. This is not going to work. And I remember, quote unquote, trusting her and following along with her plate. And not only did I not feel better, but I lost weight. I gained weight. And I remember coming back to her on a follow-up meeting and told her this stuff, and she was dumbfounded. She couldn't believe it. So now in my brain, I'm like, where am I supposed to go for help? My doctor tells me he doesn't know what I'm supposed to eat. These nutritionists, and I'm going to do this, nutritionists, were peddling me a bunch of crap. Here's where I'll fast forward a little bit. I was having lunch with an old colleague who had, as we were having lunch, we started talking about some of his ailments and some of the supplements he was taking. And then the person behind those supplements was Rachel. And so when I met Rachel, I was a client, which is a funny story for the two of us. But I remember specifically saying to Rachel, and here's where I'm going to tell you, be fact checking, right? I specifically said to her, if you can't help me, I have no faith in your industry.
Yeah, that's what you said exactly, verbatim.
Okay. So my ailments were low energy. I was carrying a lot of weight, heartburn, to be a little I had GI,
Issues.
Frequency, consistency, etc. Now, I was also popping Prilosec on a daily basis because I had such terrible heartburn. And this is where Rachel's first zone of genius came through, which was not how to mask the heartburn, but to get to why I had it in the first place. And I'm just going to stop here for a second because this is something that I think aligns with why I find you to be such a unicorn. Is when people come to you for executive life or nutrition coaching, you go to root cause.
Yeah.
People say, this is my ailment, or these are my ailments. And you're looking at, why do you have them in the first place?
Yes. And ailments can be like chronic issues at work with another, like an employee or a team member. Ailments can be problems in your marriage or in your relationship. And ailments can also be heartburn, bloat, gas, hormonal imbalance. So ailments can be anything that is negatively impacting the quality of life, period, across the board.
Here's the other thing. So I describe Rachel as a unicorn in her space. And now, as I said earlier, she's my life partner. We live together. I'm with her all the time. And I have a lot of ailments still. And I watch her brain at work. And we've been trying to figure out how to explain it. And the best way that I've learned how to explain what I see of you is, I'll make this comparison to me, which is I used to work as a recruiter, and I have coached job seekers throughout my career. And one of the things that I say to job seekers is, I can't really explain to you how a recruiter looks at your resume almost like a snapshot of a picture, and we're able to dissect all these things. And the way I describe it is, if you look at a picture of your house, right? You notice the house, you notice the windows, you notice the landscape, you notice the trees in the background and the grass is green. Maybe there's a bird in the tree, and you see all of these things in the picture, but you don't think all those disparate parts. You just see the picture. And the way Rachel sees the body is kind of similar. I say I've got heartburn, and she sees veins and muscles and things and stuff that I'm like, how do you even know this stuff? But you see it.
Yes, I do. Like if I hear anything with the body, almost anything, I would say with the body, I immediately can see inside the body. I can see from, the inception point to the exit point, what's going on, what possibilities could be, and I can do it very quickly. But that's also because I have been studying the human body for a very, very long time in all different facets. So not just in nutrition, but in kinesiology, in like neurologically, like the entire human body.
All right. So before we officially dive in, one of the things that we put in the write-up is providing tangible solutions to support people and for them to implement now. So I'm just planting that seed early as we go through. Let's think about what the tangible things are, see if we can provide them. For those listening, Rachel can get real geeky and it goes over my head. So maybe I'll represent the common folk, if you will.
We'll try to use street language as much as we can.
Yeah. All right. So maybe let's start off with You coach a lot of ladies, and that's really your expertise is coaching women in leadership positions. What are the common ailments, or what do you hear from women about what's ailing them?
Okay, let's go back a little bit though, so people can understand a little bit of like who I am, what I do, and why I have this knowledge. And so that, like, just hang with us for a little bit, and then we will dive in, and you can maybe can check and see if there's any comments. So like I said, I have been studying the human body since 1993. Actually, since before that, because I was in high school and I was reading books on nutrition. I was studying anatomy. Thought I was going to go into pathology. Did not do that. But so I have been studying the human body. Like I said, I have been studying nutrition and got my undergraduate in exercise science, then went and worked in corporate America for a while. And I did that in outside sales and realized like I am not contributing to the world. I am selling windows and doors to construction sites, and Home Depot and Lowe's were my channel. And I was like, I am not contributing to the world. And I was seeing an increase in the use of pharmaceuticals. And don't get me wrong, I am pro pharmaceutical when absolutely necessary. But I was seeing an increase a use of like medications, especially for mental health. And I was noticing things within my own family and extended family of, oh, you eat and drink this, you have pizza and beer, and then 2 days later you have depression. Or you eat all this sugar and 30 minutes later you're yelling and screaming and having an outburst, and then you have to take a nap. So I realized like not only are we going the wrong direction with our health, number two is like I have these two little babies that I put on this earth, and I'm not doing anything to make it better. And that's when I went to Nutrition Therapy Institute, and that kind of began the true integration of working with individuals to say what is within your control in your life that we know will help you have a better life, specifically better health, neurologically and physically. So I did that, opened my own business, ran my own practice for almost 14 years, almost worked exclusively with women. We did have a handful of men too, but we really learned the female body, the intricacies, and how our lifestyle impacts our health. And so that is like a brief story, not that brief, of like how I got here and why I'm here. And by the way, through this process, very, very quickly, I learned like anybody can give you a protocol. Like, here's the plate, Darren. Go eat this plate. However, if you don't have the mindset to make the changes, if you don't have the mindset to want to make alterations, if you will, to your nutrition and your lifestyle, then it's not going to stick. So that's when the coaching came into it. So coaching has been in my practice since 2016. So the mind with the body is key here. We have to address both of that. So that leads me into working with high performing women and seeing like lifestyle correlated directly to, let's call it condition. I'm not going to call it a disease, but health conditions. So all of that is the preface to then what am I seeing with clients? Is that what your question was, like, what do I commonly see with women?
Let me interject with something. So earlier when you first started telling your story, you said you're not anti-pharmaceutical. I think it's important to state that if a listener is looking for the magic pill, they do exist in some ways, and that's not what we're talking about. That's not what we believe, at least what you believe.
No.
Two, you told me a number of times that for doctors, they are not taught nutrition.
No.
They are taught condition and protocol. And for what it's worth, I've been listening to some Andrew Huberman Lab podcasts, two in particular, one with a Dr. Casey Means and a second with a Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. And both of them said the same thing. And it's not that I didn't believe you, but it was just interesting hearing it from these doctors. And what they were saying was that a lot of the conditions, I'll use your word, conditions that exist today, many of them can be positively influenced with lifestyle change. That's what we are leaning
Yes.
into. Go ahead.
Yes, there's genetic disease and then there's lifestyle driven disease. The majority of the diseases that we are experiencing as a society are lifestyle driven disease. Hypertension, obesity, we could even say hormonal imbalances, PCOS. Now, look, I am not a doctor and I'm not going to pretend to be a doctor and I'm going to stay in my lane. However, if you are experiencing a lifestyle driven disease, medications are only masking the symptoms. They're only like they're the band aid. You have to go to the root cause. The root cause is how are you living your lifestyle? What are you eating? What's the water you're drinking? Like what's your exposure to toxins? Number one, what's your stress? Because you can be eating kale and salads and ribeyes and beautiful and chicken breast, like, and I am pro meat, by the way. But if you are stressed when you're eating it, you are stressed 24/7, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's better than if you're eating McDonald's. However, you're still going to be creating inflammation in the body, and that kale you cannot eat enough kale to mitigate the massive amount of stress that I'm seeing within my clients. It's not going to work. And I really want to make that clear because so many women will come to me and they're like, I'm doing it all right. And many of them are doing way more than the majority of the population in relation to exercise and diet. But quite frankly, their life is kind of a shit show. Like they have way too much stress. They're taking and carrying the load at home. They have huge jobs, lots of responsibility. They're traveling all the time. They're not sleeping enough. It's like, yeah, you're doing it all right, but this is it. Like that has to change, and that's what people don't want to change. And I get it. But then don't hold yourself to a standard that's not achievable and beat yourself up for it.
So when you say that has to change, you're talking about the stress, the lifestyle.
Yes. Which is part of the problem of so many women exiting these big jobs that they have worked so hard for because they're at the point where they're like, well, I can't do it all. Like, I think I told you this maybe 3 weeks ago, a month ago, what my client said to me, like, I have to change. And I said, why? And she said, if I don't, I think I'm going to die. Like the overall picture, like she's at a constant boil. And the overall picture, like at home, do we have a division of labor at home? Are we having support at home? Are we getting to the gym? Are we sleeping? Like it's all the basic shit that everybody knows about, but it's like, how do you implement that when you are literally the CEO at home and you're the CEO at work and you have all of this responsibility and none of it is responsibility to self-care? Or very little. We won't use. Yeah. Okay, I went off on that tangent, didn't I? I totally did. I know.
It's all good. All right, where do you want to go next?
Okay, so some of the questions that we had. So I messaged some people before that had registered, and the questions were more like, my Hashimoto's or my autoimmune condition is flaring. I can't seem to lose weight. I have low level anxiety. I have a little bit of depression. I have PCOS. I have hormonal imbalance. I feel like I'm 6 months pregnant by the end of the day. I have heartburn. Maybe they have high blood pressure. That's more for men, but women too. So when we talk about the symptoms or the conditions, right? Those are symptoms of something deeper. Maybe where we go is, well, let's do this. Let's check. Do we have any comments?
Not yet.
None. Okay. So yesterday we talked about like, it's hard for me to communicate everything that I do because there's just too much up there and you have to pull things out.
Hold on. What was the specific question that you got from the folks that you messaged that registered?
It really wasn't a question. It was more like, how do I do this? Like,
how do I do what?
Like all the stressor, like, how do I get to the gym? How do I make sure that I'm eating well? How do I take care of my Hashimoto's or my autoimmune condition, which is exasperated by stress? So it's more like I've got all this on my plate, and now you're telling me that I have to like eat well and exercise, and it's not working, and all these things. And so people are confused and they're frustrated, and quote unquote things aren't working. So I don't really know where to go with that.
All right. So it's going to seem basic to the two of us, and yet we both know that a lot of our clients talk about time. So specifically with the women that you coach and think across your career, we're like, what are the time constraints many of them have? And then how do you start to coach them through like creating time?
Yeah, well, I think all of us can understand the whole time starved, right? You're getting up at 5 a.m. thinking you're going to get a workout in, but then you end up back on your computer, and then you got to get the kids out the door, and then you go to work, and then you're at work all day, and then you come home, and then you have to get dinner made or bring kids to sports if you have them, and laundry's got to get done, and fill in the blank. Like it just goes on and on and on. Bath time, reading, snuggles, the kids go to bed, you pour a glass of wine or two or three, you get back on, you do some more emails. Like the time constraint is that, number one, we as women, and I'm going to be a little narrow here with who I'm speaking to, but women specifically with partners or no partners and children that have that extra layer of responsibility. The problem is that you're doing it all. And you're just doing it because you're in it and that's what had to happen. But somebody needs to look at you and say, this is not all of your responsibility. Yes, your children are your responsibility, and you might be in your custodial years with them. However, if you have a partner, they are responsible to help too. And if the two of you cannot come together to say, okay, we've got 100 things, well, let's talk about the fair play, right? Like Fair Play by Eve Rodsky talks about this. There's 100 things that most households need to function. If you're doing 80% of them and your partner is doing 20, that's not a partnership. So you need to shore that up and have hard conversations. And if your partner or you are unwilling to do these things to make it easier to clear the runway or to give yourself more time, then you need to delegate it and outsource it. Period. This is a solvable problem that most women don't do. They won't have the conversation, or if they do have the conversation, then listen up, everybody, get the fuck out of the way. If your partner is willing and saying, yes, I'll take this, I didn't know this was a problem, I'm gonna take the laundry and I'm gonna take the kids on Tuesday, get out of the way and let them do it. Do not sit there and micromanage it in your head or manage them, right? They've got it. So I see a lot of that. Just by doing that will clear up a ton of time. And if that is not an option, then you must delegate and outsource some responsibilities. There is no way one single person can do everything that women think that they can do or have been told that they can do and are doing. That is why over 80% of women have autoimmune conditions. You cannot stress your body out to that level and not expect that there's going to be a backlash. So hire a chef, hire a house cleaner, hire a personal assistant, hire somebody to drive your car, or not your car, but drive your kids around. Get a nanny, get an au pair. I mean, hire somebody to pick up the dog poop or walk your dog. Whatever it is that you're saying is more important than you having time to feed yourself, rest, sleep, exercise, the bare minimums. I had a woman yesterday tell me, yeah, I'm really, really hungry during the day, but I just can't be bothered to eat because I have so many other things to do. And I asked, what are those things? And she said, well, I gotta do laundry. I need to clean the toilets. I'm like, the fucking toilets are more important than you nourishing yourself and keeping yourself alive and healthy. No. So that's what I would coach somebody on. So I'd coach them on it, and I would tell them what to eat, when to eat, how to eat, run their labs, show them where their nutrient deficiencies are, give them specific protocols to implement. I went off again, didn't I? See, this is what happens. You open up Pandora's box, man, and it's going to come out.
Here's the thing I find so fascinating. So when we talk about the challenges of our clients and you bring some of these stories home, for some folks, some families that can't afford to outsource some of the things you said, what I have a hard time understanding is why the spouses are not talking about the division of labor. And the stories that you tell me is, and it's often the woman, the wife, saying, I can't have that conversation with my spouse. And for the life of me, I just don't understand that. I know some people have varying, or let me phrase, everybody's got varying degrees of considerations, challenges, issues, etc. But for the ladies you speak or you coach with who are doing it all, in your words, and then can't, or to my opinion, won't have a conversation with their spouse about taking some of the load, then of course they're going to have all these issues. So it comes down to what one is willing or unwilling to do. If you're unwilling to have a conversation with your spouse to have a more fair division of labor, then by all means, nothing's going to change in their life, or very little is going to change. And of course, you're going to have time management issues. There's going to be no time to eat. There's going to be no time to exercise because you're doing it all. So one of the tangible solutions is stop saying I can't, stop saying I won't, and figure out what you will do to alleviate some stress on your calendar.
Right. I mean, the fair play methodology is a very tangible tool to use within the dynamics of your relationship.
All right, so you mentioned it a couple of times now, and it's worked very well for us. So do you want to explain what it is and how it works?
No, I don't think everybody can look up Eve Rodsky and fair play. Let's stick to like when you're in this mode and whether you're unwilling. And I want to be very, very clear. The type of woman that we are speaking to, it was me and it's my clients. I'm not talking about women who cannot, because of safety reasons, have these conversations. I am talking about fully capable, highly successful, educated, quite frankly, financially secure women who can absolutely have these conversations, and they're not. So not only are you time starved because you are doing it all and you're over controlling everything, but now you're struggling in your relationship because you're resentful. And so you're hurt. And then you find more evidence against your partner. So now you have stress from not having time, physical stress, like physiological stress in your body because you're not feeding yourself well, you're not going to the gym, you're not sleeping, you're like running on adrenaline constantly, which is going to break down your immune system. It's going to dysregulate your blood sugar. It's going to create inflammation in your body. You're going to crash. So you have this physiological response going on, and then you've got this emotional response going on. So now you have emotional stress. Like you're stacking stress on top of stress, pain on top of pain. And then you're holding yourself to a standard that's unachievable. So you need to go home and you need to have these conversations. You also need to have these hard conversations with yourself about how you're managing your time at work, where your boundaries are, and why you're overworking so much. A lot of my clients will overwork consciously or unconsciously, so they don't actually have to have conversations with their partners, and they can kind of buffer them out and not deal with the bigger. It's way easier to deal with work than it is to deal with your marriage. I feel like we're like marriage counselors.
Let's tell a success story. And in the success story, maybe as you tell it, maybe start off with whatever the ailments were, the work that was done, the changes that were made, the tangible solutions they implemented, and then how that positively impacted them.
So success story. And when I say this particular success story, I want everybody to know that this is over a course of years. Okay. So it's not necessarily, this is like, and when I say years, it's because each iteration in her life or each chapter in her life, there's been something different. But client came to me super successful woman, traveled. I think she was traveling like 75% of the time. So she would be gone all week, come home for the weekend. So you know that you're living out of a hotel, and her partner wanted to get pregnant, and they couldn't get pregnant, even when they were trying in vitro. And so what I did is like, okay, well, let's look at one of the main things that we need to look at, like your hormones and your inflammation and then your lifestyle. And it turned out I did a whole panel of functional labs on her. Okay, so not the clinical Western medicine labs, which are great. I'm an advocate, everybody get your labs. So you have markers over time. But I did functional lab testing, like we did a deep dive into thyroid, but what we really did is we did a huge deep dive into her gut health. And so it turned out like she was littered with dysbiosis, meaning she had yeast overgrowth. The good bacteria was low, the bad bacteria in her gut was high. She had parasites, she had worms, she had toxicity, she had inflammation. And what was happening is that inflammation in her gut was also affecting how she was processing and metabolizing her hormones. So what we did is looked at, we're like, okay, let's just start here. We cleaned all of that up. We brought her inflammation down. We got her gut working, which automatically helped regulate some of her hormones, because hormones can be a toxin if they're not being excreted properly. So you can recycle them. So then you have more estrogen. Maybe you're lacking some DHEA or testosterone. See, this is where I get geeky. But this is where we really have to get in there and figure out all of that. We cleared that up, got her back out. Her and her husband got pregnant. I would think it was like 6 months later. Fast forward, you have a couple kids, and thyroid isn't working well, super hard to lose weight, chronic fatigue, like tired all the time, some hot flashes going on, cognitive processing was low, like where's my brain? I know there's baby brain, but like this is different than baby brain. This is like, ugh, like it's not coming out. Ran full gamut on her again. Like we did all of her nutrient levels. We looked at her detox pathways. We looked at her gut again. We tested for Epstein-Barr virus. So these hidden like stealth viruses that slowly chip away at your immune function. We looked at some of her neurotransmitters. Like I'm telling you, this woman did she was like, I'm all in. I don't care how much it costs. Do every lab test on me and tell me what's going on. And we found it all. And so we looked at that and we're like, no wonder you're tired. No wonder your gut's not metabolizing. You're low on all these vitamins and minerals, and your omegas and your fatty acids aren't supporting your brain health. Like we looked at it all, and slowly over the course of 2 years, by the way. So you got to go in and be fully committed, because you have to like take things in phases for healing protocols. So over the course of 2 years, we worked together, and she is about as optimal as she's going to get at this point. And she even said, this is the best I'm going to get unless I'm willing to change my lifestyle and address these major stress factors over here. And I'm just not willing to do that. So she came to peace with it. And she stopped holding herself to a standard that was unachievable unless she was going to do the other 50% of the work. So all that to say is, you know your body. So when a doctor or a nutritionist or anybody is telling you like nothing's wrong, your labs are within range, this is just part of perimenopause or menopause, take some Prozac, you're stressed out, that's what the doctors told me, you're distressed, here's a script for Prozac. And intuitively that there's something else, do not give up finding the solution. Be willing to spend the money, be willing to go to a functional medicine doctor or a functional medicine nutrition therapist like myself. Keep searching, keep doing the labs, because there is always something. And if you have done every lab and you are truly optimized physiologically, then you need to have a hard conversation with yourself and say, all right, now I gotta deal with that other stuff over there.
Good story. All right, let's go on the other side. Well, maybe not the total other side. I find it fascinating. Well, there's two thoughts in my head. Let me go to the first one. The first one is many of us, me included, we start to see progress in whatever we're trying to improve upon: health, stress, time management, etc. And things start to work. And we start to see the positive change. And then we stop doing the things that got us the positive change.
Yeah.
What says you about this?
I don't know. I mean, I've done it myself. You've done it. I think everybody does it. I don't know if there's something in the brain that is like, oh, okay, we achieved it. We crossed the finish line, and then you can take your foot off the gas. And that's not how it works, but you're spot on. I see that with so many clients, and again, myself included, I have done this. So this is a conversation I had 3 weeks ago with a client. She's like, okay, I feel great now. Right? I'm starting to lose weight. My 6-month baby belly, which she's not even pregnant, by the way, is gone. Right? Like, she feels amazing. And she's like, so when can I stop this protocol? I was like, no. This is your baseline. If that's, and I think it's a mindset shift, is like, you're not doing this. You will never do the protocol just to kind of like get over the hump and then go back to the way you were. What works is your protocol. That is what your body needs. You just need to get your brain on board with like, oh, this is my new lifestyle. These are my guidelines. This is no longer a protocol. This is just life. And so I think like that's a lot of the coaching is like, if this works, then you stay there. Like I told a client, I'm like, if I'm running Google ads in my business and I'm killing it, don't turn them off. Like, you keep going because it's working. So until something shifts, you stay the course. And then if something shifts, because the body does shift, right, then you make the pivot. But the mindset behind it is that this is your baseline. This is your life. This is how you eat and operate and take care of yourself, period. And then you remove the other options. You just have to take away the other options.
I think it's important to note that the same principle applies to every aspect of leadership and life for that matter too, right? As you learn new skills and when you implement new practices, when you create new standards, that is the standard.
Yes.
Right? If for a lot of the people that I coach, what I see, unfortunately, is a lot of leaders that are unwilling to engage in conflict resolution. So what we work on is, how do you address conflict as it arises? As the leader becomes more confident and proficient in addressing things as they come, nipping things in the bud, so to speak, then that becomes the new norm, right? You don't revert back to never addressing stuff and then wonder why it's not working, right? So it's just important, I think, to note that it's not just about what you eat or when you exercise, but across all aspects of life. When you have the new standard, that is the new baseline, period. And if you go backward, exactly, you're going to revert.
Yes. Client, her goal was time management, right? So she could go from that constant boil down to like a low simmer. And so she set a standard for herself to eliminate 20% of her weekly meetings. 20%. She did it. She felt amazing. What did she do? Went back. Felt terrible. Had to get back up. So she did that, right? She was sleeping, all the things that you would expect to have 20% of your time that's not filled. When she went back, she was back to getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to send out the emails, only getting 4 hours of sleep, not getting her workout in because she was too tired, like all of the things that came along with it. And then because she did not hold the standard that she had set for herself, which she had a positive outcome from. That's the coaching. Whether it's at your office, in your business, with your team, with your nutrition, with your partner, with your kids, with yourself. You set the standard, you get a positive outcome. The coaching is to have somebody help you rewire your brain, recode your brain to stay there and not compromise the standard.
All right. So I think this is a good segue to what I also find interesting, because I am guilty of it too,
Okay.
which is we blame our coach or our nutritionist for what the science says and what the protocol needs to be.
Yeah.
For instance, right, I eat generally a gluten and dairy-free diet because I kind of have to, or I've decided I have to, or else I'm going to deal with the GI distress I have. What I find interesting is when you will run a lab on someone and the science says X, and then they want to fight you about it.
Oh my God. Yes. Yes. All the time this happens. I think this is part of the reason why I don't do just straight nutrition therapy anymore is because there's so much mindset behind it. And not the word is negotiation. Listen, there's a time to question the data. For sure. So you get some labs done, you have a doctor tell you one thing, and you intuitively know, no, I need to question this. I need to advocate. However, if you run the labs, I will run a lab and I will say, here's what we got to do. You can try and negotiate with me, which, by the way, I'm not up for negotiation. You paid me, I'm giving you the information. I'm not going to spend my time trying to convince you. So you can either sit there and negotiate and waste your money and the time, or you can do what is being told will help you. Now, if you're doing that and you are genuinely doing it and it's not working, of course, you're going to come back to me and say, hey, Rach, this worked, but this didn't work and I'm not quite feeling it, and we refine it, right? We have to, it's not sometimes it's a dead bullseye out of the gates. Well, don't fight me on it. Don't fight your nutritionist on it. Try it. It's probably going to work. There's no compromising what the data says unless it's not working. So thank you for saying that. And the reason I think I'm so passionate about this is I get so worked up about it, and people tell me, they're you're too much. You're too passionate about this. And it's because you're a fully functioning fucking woman. Stop making yourself less or making yourself smaller or not investing in yourself or telling yourself all these lies, and you're a fully capable woman, and we're talking about negotiating your health and well-being and, quite frankly, your longevity, and you are acting like it's the end of the world. We're talking about food. Well, we're actually talking about more than that, so I guess we're talking about the nutrition aspect of it, but you're fully functioning. Step into that power. You're so strong and powerful in so many other areas of your life. And yet this seems to be an area where we act differently. It's highly emotional. So yeah, don't negotiate with me. If you want to negotiate, go somewhere else. I mean, and I'd say that genuinely, go somewhere else, but I'm just not negotiating with clients.
All right, I'm going to try to make this point, and then let's get to the tangible solutions before we wrap up. So you and I both coach to the conversations we have in our brains, right? For those of you that talk to yourself, you know what I'm talking about, right? The conversation in your brain, the positive and the negative, how you beat yourself up, how you support yourself, whatever the conversation is. The more ailments we have, the more arguments we have at home, the more we're upset about the lack of equality at home, the lack of support we have at work, whatever the stories are, and stories plural, it takes up brain power, right? It's like this constant buzz that's in there, right? I'm annoyed with my spouse, I'm annoyed with my kids, I'm annoyed with this, traffic, whatever the fuck the story is. Now, when you coach your clients and you do this holistic approach, which is health and leadership, and also gets into life at home, is in essence, what I think you do, or at least what I experience you do, is you help to minimize or at least reduce the number of conversations, right? The better I feel because my clothes fit better and my 6-month baby belly is gone, or my hormones are operating correctly, and that has positive impact to cognitive function, right? There is this thread of holistic well-being. And, you came up with this line of, was it optimize your everything?
Yeah. Yes. Optimize your everything.
So maybe talk about what that means for you in the way you coach.
What it means to me is that your existence is in one silo, yet we treat our lives as multiple silos. We treat our health in a silo, our life, relationship, home in a silo, and work in a silo. And that's not how it works. If you are fighting with your partner, right, or your marriage is struggling, you will have stress. That stress will impact your health. That stress will impact how you show up at work, even if you're telling yourself it's not, it's bullshit, it's impacting how you show up at work because you're not 100% free of mind to be focused on work, to be patient, to be sharp. Then that stress, right? It's all circular. So then let's say, you're having problems with your team at work because maybe your brain isn't quite delivering like the messages or the KPIs or whatever it is you want to do. So now you're like, what is this? What's wrong with my team? What's going on? Why are they not getting it? But you're not delivering it in a clear way because part of your brain is still back home with you and your husband. So then you go home and then you complain about your team and you're stressed out. And then you look and you're like, God damn it, my husband didn't make the dinner like he said he was going to do. Now you're mad about that. And now you're going to do, I can't deal with this, so I'm going to pour a glass of wine, which becomes 2 glasses of wine, which becomes a bottle of wine, which now throws off your hormones, creates inflammation, dysregulates your blood sugar, causes you to gain weight, you don't sleep. It is all interconnected. And so you cannot, there's plenty of coaches out there, right? You have a specific lane that you coach to. I just cannot separate out you as a whole woman and everything that is happening in your life, personally, professionally, and from a health, physically perspective. I can't do it because you will not be completely optimized.
That's a soundbite right there. Whenever we have a video editor, that's the clip.
That's the clip. You just can't. It doesn't work that way. I know we want to say it does, and you may not need someone like me like every single time, right? Maybe health is great, home is great, and you're just struggling at work. I think that's a great lane for you and a lot of other executive coaches who are like, yeah, this is my niche, this is my specialty, right? Not everybody has the whole picture that is like, God, something is poking somewhere and I'm leaking somewhere, right? So it's like, you just need to know that there's somebody like that out there that exists that can help you, like really look at all of it.
All right, so let's close out and let's talk specifically about tangible solutions that people can do.
Okay, there's a lot. So tangible solutions are if you are struggling with division of labor at home, tangible solution is Fair Play by Eve Rodsky. Obviously, tangible is coaching, therapy. Tangible is also hiring out, like we talked about, right? Again, we're talking to a specific demographic of people who can afford to hire out, to get help, to delegate. Tangible solutions with your health. this is a tricky one because I'm so nuanced and I don't want to be like, eat 2 cups of vegetables at every meal. Like, if that were the fucking problem, the solution, like, everybody would be healthy. That's not it. However, everybody can stand to eat more vegetables. Everybody can stand to drink more water. Every single one of us can stand to exercise more. Every one of us. We are way too stagnant. Do functional labs. Spend the money on functional labs. They are not covered by insurance. If you refuse to do labs, tangibles are go and get labs from your doctor. At least get into your doctor and get a baseline and do it every single year. And if you need, if you're feeling like this, no, something's still off, tangible, like, go find somebody. Like, get sleep. 4 hours of sleep, you're not going to lose weight on 4 hours of sleep. You're not going to finish your digestion. You're not going to, like, reduce inflammation. You have to have sleep, 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep. Take quality supplements. Please don't go to Costco and buy Kirkland brand crap. And I say that, but like, genuinely buy quality pharmaceutical grade, third-party tested, efficacy, like, quality supplements. Get an executive coach. And what I mean by that is, like, a lot of women have been coming to me and asking, like, I can't afford you now that you're, doing this executive coaching, or it's like, you don't pay me. Your company sponsors you. I am an executive coach that also helps you with your life and your health. What else am I missing? There's so many things.
I think you hit on a lot of them. When you talk about outsourcing, the first thing I always think about is food prep or meal prep.
Yes.
I mean, we've got a great resource in Denver. If anybody needs a referral, just ask. There's, what is it? What's the one in the box that people get? Do you know what I'm talking about? It's a meal delivery, right? They give you all the ingredients and you follow the recipe.
Oh, yeah, yeah. There's 100 of them now. Like, yeah. There's so many meal delivery services. Yes.
That's the one I always think about. A lot of people complain about cooking, and so we eat out.
I mean, that was for me, right, when I got divorced. I was like, well, I have my kids 50% of the time. Do I want that time to be spent cooking, prepping, cleaning up, or do I want to be reading with them, playing with them, snuggling with them? And so I outsourced meal delivery. I really couldn't afford it technically at the time, but I was like, I was paying to have more time and quality time with my kids and to feed them well, instead of getting home at 7 at night and, like, running to, not that we would ever do McDonald's, but running to McDonald's because it's very common, or Chick-fil-A or whatever. Yeah, that's a huge time saver right there.
Yep. All right. Any parting thoughts as we wrap up?
I think, what I want to say is, like, I came off really strong about, like, competent women, and you're not acting competent. Maybe that's not exactly how it came out, but that's it, is like, you are competent in all of this. You are educated. You are strong enough to figure this out with the right team. So, and life is hard enough the way it is. So don't make it harder on yourself by trying to, like, figure this out on your own and do it all. That's what I mean by, come on. You've got this. You can figure it out. Like, do what needs to be done. Don't make more problems for yourself. Don't sit there and say, I should figure out how to make dinner when I get home. Or I don't want to have the conversation with my partner because I don't have the energy, right, for what might be a fight, which you don't even know. Like, do it. Remove the problems. Don't add more to it. There's people out there that can help, and there's always a solution. That's why I was so passionate, is like, I see it in these women, and it's like, I want them to have it as much as I know for them, and the power. I think that's why I get so passionate about it. Do I have any final parting words? Let's think here.
Well, let me just interject real quick. We did get a comment from Andrea. Thank you, Andrea, on food delivery called Sunbasket.
Sunbasket. Okay. Yes.
So I hadn't heard that one, but she loves it.
Yes. If you're in Denver, right, we know like Little Pink Kitchen. That's who we used for a long time. We know Abby Cooks Wild. She's amazing. Totally different model. There's so many different meal deliveries out there. Talk about a tangible. Here's a tangible. Do a cleanse in January. Here's another tangible. Take out gluten for 30 days and see how you feel. Take out dairy for 30 days and see how you feel. Go for a walk. Get a treadmill under your standing desk. Get a coach.
I have a couple
That's
parting
me.
thoughts.
Okay.
The first is those two doctors I mentioned earlier from the Huberman lab. One of the things they said is so underrated and has exponential impact positively is going for walks. So I don't do that enough myself, but these two doctors, and you said the same earlier, so go for a walk.
Yeah.
The other is first anecdote from my mom, and then the point I'm going to make, which is my mom told me this story that when she was seeing a therapist when I was a really well-behaved youngster, haha,
Haha.
was the therapist said to her, "Do you want to keep crying or do you want to do something about it?" And so that illustrates the directness of my family. And this is where I'll make the anecdote, or at least the point, which is for anyone that says, I can't or I won't, that's the place to look to take action. The thing that you quote unquote can't or won't do is very often the very thing that's holding you back from whatever's on the other side. So the can't and the won't is like my mom crying, and what you're willing to do about it is the impact, or what I think would positively impact your life if you'd be willing to try something.
Yes, exactly. I think that's what I was saying about either do it or don't hold yourself to the standard.
Or if you're not willing to do something, stop bitching about it.
Well, exactly. Like if you're complaining because you don't have any money in your 401k, but you don't put money into your 401k, then don't bitch about it. Don't complain about it.
Right.
And I
And if you
say
don't,
that because it's like you're just hurting yourself and you're doing it to yourself. Yeah, don't complain about it if you're unwilling to do something about it. We're big into that.
all right, that's all I got. Anything last before we say goodbye?
Uh, Obviously, if any of this resonates, like reach out. Let's have a conversation, like, because I want everybody to know there are solutions out there for you. And if I'm not your person, I have a large community of people who are. No one has to struggle, at least when the struggle is related to something that is solvable.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we're off to Columbia tonight, and we'll be
As in
back
the country of Colombia, y'all.
in a couple weeks.
Well, we might do a LinkedIn Live from Colombia.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But we'll put in the comments if anybody is interested in having a conversation with me to see if we're the like right fit, can I help, what's going on, or get them in the right direction. We'll put in the comments how to schedule a conversation with myself using my Calendly. And then let's get you on the calendar for when we get back from our trip.
All right.
Okay.
We'll see you in 2 Tuesdays, 3 Tuesdays.
We'll let you know.
All
2
right.
Tuesdays.
Goodbye.
Bye.
All right, hold on. Yours is delayed.